What is up, PreMed Star? It's Dr. Dale, the author of How to Raise a Doctor and author of PreMed Mondays. Both books are available on Amazon.com, so grab a copy there. And you are listening to the PreMed Mondays Mentoring Podcast. Really excited to get into this week. We're going to be talking about 5 ways to maximize your classroom time. I know a lot of you guys try not to go to class anymore, but it's still important. 5 ways to maximize your classroom time. Check it out. Happy Monday, PreMed Star. It is going to be another great week. Start the week off strong. It's Monday. Wake up with the right perspective. Don't say, I wish it was Wednesday, or I wish it was Friday. Say, it's Monday. I've got a whole week ahead of me that I can get a lot accomplished. So that's the way to take on the week. That's the way I do it. And that's the way that I encourage you guys to do it. Before we get into this week, I want to let you guys know the website's going to be changing here. And I don't know if it's going to be changed by the time you hear this, but this week we plan on launching the new website. It's going to look completely different, and we want your feedback. We want to know what you guys think about the website, because we've talked to a whole lot of you guys. We've messaged a lot of you guys, and we've gotten your feedback about things that you didn't like about the old website. So we're updating everything. We're going to make it better, make it more efficient for you guys to use on this new website. And we got some more stuff coming. This is just a very preliminary portion of it, but we've got more things coming that we're adding to it to really help you guys grow and benefit and ultimately become medical doctors. That's why we're here, right? So I'm really excited about that. Please send me your feedback. I want to know what we can do better and how we can help you guys accomplish your goals. All right, so this week we're going to be talking about 5 ways to maximize your classroom time. Here's the deal. I know that it is 2018, almost 2019, but we're still in 2018. I get it. Technology is rampant. You basically don't need to go to class for anything. You can watch your lectures online. You can get the PowerPoints. You can not even listen to your own teacher. You can go learn from other people online, Khan Academy, different resources. I get it. There's a million ways to learn things, but going to class is still critical for your success. It really is. And we're going to talk about why that is in part. And we're going to talk about how to maximize that classroom time, because it really does make a big difference. All right. So let's get into it. Number 1, the very first thing you have to do if you want to maximize your classroom time is, ding, 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 you guessed it, go to class. You have to actually be in class if you want to maximize your classroom time. There are a variety of reasons pre-meds don't go to class, right? The number 1 reason might be if it's an online class. If that's the case, then of course you're not going to class. It's an online class. You can't go to class. There is no class to go to, okay? But if there is a physical class you can go to, some students say, I don't need to go because the information is going to be online, or I already have the PowerPoint, I already have the notes, or, I learned it from Khan Academy, or, hey, I'm just tired. I stayed up partying too late last night, so I'm just too tired to go. All of those are not good enough reasons not to go to class. None of them are good enough. Remember, I said this last week. Your professor wakes up and goes to class, so you should be able to wake and go to class, okay? Right? Somebody's paying money for you to be there, so make sure one of those seats in that classroom has your name on it. So many great things happen when you go to class. So many great benefits. And, probably the most important one, well, there's a lot of important ones, but one of the more important ones that people overlook is you get to form a relationship with your professor. Your professor gets to see you in the eye. If you do it right, if you listen to the things I'm going to say here, if you do this right, you can form a real relationship with your professor so they know your name, so that one day they might be able to write you a rec letter, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to be in this position where you know your professor, but then you also get all the other benefits from going to class, right? Going to class will help you get a higher grade. Most people will do better if they go to class than they don't do better. Some people might not make a difference, and a lot of people will do a lot worse if they don't go to class, all right? So the first thing, rule number 1 is you need to go to class, all right? Your professor's there, you should be there. Number 2, you guys are going to hear me say this over and over and over in this book, and anytime you hear me talking, sit in the front row. I know there's only limited number of seats in the front row, so that's why you got to get there, grab your seat, make it known, hey, this is your seat. Sit in the front row, because there's so many benefits that come from sitting in the front row, which we've talked about and we'll talk about more throughout the PreMed Mondays podcast. So I'm not going to get into all that right now. But sitting in the front row and brief helps you engage with the professor better. Helps the professor get to know you better, helps you stay focused. So many benefits come from sitting in that front row. And if you can do that, you can get all the benefits of sitting in the front row. That is a big part of maximizing your classroom time. Take it from somebody who did it all throughout undergrad and performed well in undergrad. Sit in the front row of class. It can make a world of difference in your performance, all right? Number 3, This one's going to be hard for a lot of guys, okay? Put your cell phone on silent. Just turn it off. Or if you don't want to turn it off, put it on silent, at least mute your social media alerts, all right? I know the feeling. I know the temptation. Hey, I'm a physician. I go to meetings still, and I want to reach in my pocket and grab it out. And, I want to start clicking on Facebook and Twitter or whatever, and I want to pay attention to these things, right? But if you want to focus and get the most out of your classroom time, and for me, it's when I go to my meetings, you got to put that stuff on silent, because if you don't put it on silent, you're going to be distracted and it's going to throw you off. It'll throw you off. You won't focus on the material. It's really going to impede the amount of knowledge you could have gained from being there in class. So be disciplined about that. When you get to class, boom, put it on silent. Or at least mute your social media, right? Focus. You're in class. You're paying for that time. Focus on learning the material so you can master it. It will pay dividends in the long run. Number 4, take notes, all right? And I really have to emphasize this, because what happens is a lot of people go to class, but they're daydreaming the whole time. They're not paying any attention. Just sitting in class, looking around on Facebook, whatever you want. And let's say if you're not on Facebook, let's say if your phone is on silent, a lot of people will just sit in class and look to see what other people are doing. Or you're going in and out of fantasy land in your brain. A good way to stay engaged is to actually take notes on what the professor is saying. That will keep you engaged in the class. I know there's PowerPoint there. Sometimes they give you the PowerPoint slides. It's okay. Take notes next to the PowerPoint slides. You can handwrite it, or if you got your computer out there, just type it on the computer. But stay engaged with the discourse, with the dialogue that's going on between your professor and the class, because that's going to help you stay awake. First of all, hey, I get it. You go to class, you get tired, you sleep, you fall asleep in class. I get it. Taking notes will help you stay awake in class so you don't fall asleep. That's a critical part. You want to stay awake. If you're going to be in class, you might as well be awake. A good way to stay awake is to take notes. And second of all, you have your own notes, because even though you have the PowerPoint, when you take your own notes, you can make them specific to what's important to you, because there might be a lot of stuff on the slide and the professor says something and say, oh, I need to put a star by that, or I need to write a little bit more annotation next to that because this is how I'm going to remember it. Hey, here's a cool mnemonic. Let me write it down before I forget because I just thought about it. So many little individual things you can do for you specifically might not be applicable to anybody else, but they will help you perform better. And you can do that when you're sitting in class paying attention and taking notes right then and there, because that thought might slip your mind. You might never get back to it. So take notes. It's going to help you learn better, and it's going to help you stay awake, right? You want to stay awake in class, okay? And number 5, this one is very hard for a lot of pre-medical students to do, a lot of students in general to do, actually, is to ask questions. Ask questions. Here's the deal. I know when you're in class, a lot of times people are scared to be the guy or gal to raise your hand up and say, hey, I don't understand this. You feel shamed. You feel like, hey, does everybody else get it and I just don't get it? Hey, if you have a question about it, more than likely, at least 3 other people in that classroom have that same question. If you have a question, not to mention if you've been doing everything else that I've been talking about in the other PreMed Mondays podcast, if you've been doing all those things, you're light years ahead of everybody else, right? So if you're light years ahead of everybody else and you still have a question, I could almost guarantee you other people in that classroom have that same question, okay? So first of all, they're going to be happy that you asked a question. But second of all, let's just say forget that. Forget what they're thinking. You're going to be happy that you asked a question, because then you'll know the answer to the question. You don't have to go spend another half an hour looking it up when you get home. You got a question? Boom. Professor, I don't understand this. Could you explain how this works, please? You done explaining it? Thank you, professor. And you leave it at that. You got your answer right then and there. And if it's still not enough, then after class, stay a couple minutes and ask your question. Let's say, hey, you're a little bit too shy to ask a question in class. That's perfectly fine. Even though I would argue you should push yourself not to be shy, because that's part of being a leader. Push yourself to ask that question. But let's say you can't do it up front. Stay after class and ask the question to the professor one-on-one. When you do it, you extend your arm out and you shake their hand. You introduce yourself. That's assuming that you've never met the professor one-on-one before. Introduce yourself. Look them in the eyes so they know your name. That interaction right there will stick with your professor, and they'll remember you. All right. And that's how you end up getting rec letters and things in the future. That pays off big time. But you have to ask questions. When I was in undergrad, I would purposefully ask questions a couple of times a week just to make sure the professor would remember me. You could even ask a question on something you think you already know the answer to, just to get a little bit more clarification, just to make sure the professor is going to remember you and to get the clarification on the issue at hand. Right? But you want to ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. From being somebody who teaches, I still teach, do some teaching stuff. being somebody who teaches, I'm going to tell you, I remember the people who ask questions. The other people I rarely ever remember. But if you're somebody who asks a question, more than likely I'm going to remember you, right? So let me pull out my book here and see what this week's challenge is. But those are the five ways to maximize your classroom time, okay? Number 1, go to class. Number 2, sit in the front row. Number 3, put your cell phone on silent. Number 4, take notes. And number 5, ask questions. Do those 5 things, and you're going to be so much happier. You went to class first of all, but then with the bang for your buck you get from going to that class, it's going to make the rest of your studying much easier. All right. So next week, we're going to be talking about 5 reasons to sit in the front of the class. I told you I'm so big on that. So this week I told you go to class and sit in the front. Next week, I'm going to tell you why you should be sitting in the front. I already covered a few of them today, but we're really going to get into it next week, and I'm going to hammer it home because I am a very big supporter of this idea of sitting in the front of the class. All right. So my challenge for you guys this week is to stay after one of your lectures and ask a specific question to your professor. So after class, stay after class when everybody's getting believing and ask a question to one of your professors. If you haven't met them before, reach that hand out, shake their hand, say your full name, look them in the eye, and make sure to remember you. All right. So that's the challenge this week. So next week, 5 reasons to sit in the front row of class. And hey, remember, we're launching the new site, the new look, new design, and we got a lot more coming for you guys on PreMed Star. So reach out to me. Let me know what you think. And I'd love to implement your feedback. Our team is here specifically to make sure you guys are successful. That's why we invest all this. So we invest all this in you guys to make sure you guys can make it, okay? So please subscribe to the PreMed Mondays podcast. Subscribe on iTunes, Google, whatever you use. Subscribe. And make sure you're sharing these. Just click the button, share, send it to your PreMed club. Make sure everybody's aware and they're benefiting from this as well. And the PreMed voice, if you guys are missing out on those, you're missing out on something great. Every week has been a great episode. Last week was Megan Nelson. Phenomenal episode. All right. Don't miss out on the PreMed voice. Make sure you subscribe to those podcasts as well. All right, guys. You have any questions? You know where to find me. PreMedStar.com. I love you guys, and I will see you online.